Trump acquitted in impeachment trial. 7 GOP senators vote with Democrats to convict. This is great. This is part of the problem, by the way, with the right, with conservatives. We're not unified. Not like the Democrats, not like the left, not like the socialists. They seem to be much better when it comes to coming together and unifying collectively than the right. Yeah. There's too much of an embrace of radical individualism on the right, pushed by people like Jordan Peterson. Yeah. The whole radical individualism bullshit is also a part of the communist agenda. Okay? It's something introduced to those on the right who already have a bent toward individuality, which makes it nearly impossible for them to come together collectively to fight back against the collectivization of the left, of the communists, of the socialists, so that you are less likely to be able to stop them from taking over the country. Radical individualism is just as bad as collectivism. People don't seem to get it. Being individualistic is good, having your own thoughts, having your own ideas, being able to think for yourself. But when you radicalize a person to be extremely individualistic, it can be too much. There is such a thing as too much of a good thing, and that includes individualism just as collectivization. Now, yes, radical collectivization, which is all the left is very, very bad. You give up your ability to think logically, reasonably, critically for yourself. You give up your identity. Before I get into this story a little more, I would like to ask those of you out there that like and appreciate my content to please consider going and checking out my website, therealistphilosopher.com. That is therealistphilosopher.com. You'll find a lot of useful, interesting links in the upper right-hand corner. Gab, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I suggest you follow me on these platforms so that you'll keep abreast of new content, as well as know where I'm live streaming. So, therealistphilosopher.com. Also, if you would like to support my work, you'll find 3 donation links at the bottom of my webpage. Number 1 is my Bitcoin wallet address. Number 2 is my Cash App address. And number 3 is my Patreon, which is a per-piece platform. I post about 8 pieces a month on Patreon. So if you donate $1, that'd be $8 a month, 50 cents, $4 a month, 25 cents, $2 a month. You get the idea. Any amount is greatly appreciated. Either way, whatever you donate, perfectly okay with me. So go check that out, therealistphilosopher.com. There's therealistphilosopher.com, and consider making a donation. Could really use your help, guys. Okay, so Trump acquitted in impeachment trial. 7 GOP senators vote with Democrats to convict. They're not Republicans, by the way. These GOP senators who voted with the Democrats are what I like to call, and most would call, rhinos. They're Republicans in name only. They ran pretending to be Republicans. And then people just kept re-electing them on name recognition. And of course, they're false promises that oftentimes they never followed through on. So they are controlled opposition shills. Meanwhile, how many of those do you have in the Democratic Party? I mean, all Democrats seem to have voted. All Democrats seem to have voted for impeachment. But you had 7 holdouts. You had 7 in the Republican Party that voted to impeach. So that's one big issue, Democrats versus Republicans. Republicans have a very hard time unifying, which makes it nearly impossible to fight back against the unified collective that is the left. So the Senate on Saturday voted to acquit former President Donald Trump on a charge of incitement and insurrection, despite significant Republican support for conviction. They're not Republicans, okay? Mitt Romney's a rhino. They're all rhinos. They're all Democrats. Bringing an end to the 4th impeachment trial in U.S. history and the 2nd for Trump. So truth be told, while technically it's a 50-50 split in the Senate, these 7 fake Republicans who are actually Democrats, that shifts the power in the Democrats' favor. 7 Republicans voted to convict Trump for allegedly inciting the deadly January 6th riot. It's only deadly because one idiot, coward, Washington, D.C. cop shot some poor girl in the throat for absolutely no reason. And if she had been black and a BLM rioter, and there had been a BLM, mostly peaceful protest going on, he'd have been charged with murder. But since there was a white conservative, it wasn't a riot anyway. That's bullshit. There was no riot, never a riot with the conservatives there. It didn't happen. when a mob of pro-Trump supporters, again a lie, and all the people that were trying to incite and who might have broken a few windows were all BLM and Antifa plants. And it turns out that any violence that was planned that day was planned by Antifa and BLM on social media. They planned to go there, pretend to be Trump supporters, try to whip up the mob. It wasn't anything to do with conservatives. And by the way, the whole bullshit about them storming was a lie. The cops opened the gates, waved them in. There was no riot. That is a lie. And that cop that died, he died of natural causes. He wasn't struck in the head with a fire extinguisher. There was no blunt force trauma to the head. Yet another lie by the lamestream media. Yeah, so when these pro-Trump supporters tried to disrupt the electoral vote count, formalizing Joe Biden's election, well, they were protesting. And I thought that was allowed. Oh, yeah, formalizing Joe Biden's election when he didn't win anything. He cheated before a joint session of Congress. That is by far the most bipartisan support for conviction in impeachment history. The final vote was 57 to 43, 10 short of the 67 needed to secure a conviction. Yeah, too close indeed. Republican Senators Richard Burr of North Carolina, Susan Collins of Maine, Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. Of Alaska? Really? Oh, Mitt Romney of Utah. Didn't Biden just shut down thousands of jobs in your state? Lisa Murkowski, you sellout piece of crap, you. Mitt Romney of Utah, Mormon fuck. Ben Sasse of Nebraska, and Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania all voted guilty. Yeah, they're all bought and paid for, corrupt to the core. Like most politicians, I'll agree, the vote means the Senate cannot bar Trump from holding future federal offices. All right, let me explain something to you. The reason they were trying to impeach him here, in addition to it being a distraction so that Biden could sign 10,000 executive orders and you would be distracted from taking too close a look at them, the other reason is because they did want to try to impeach him so that he couldn't run again. Because it's a hell of a big pain in the ass to fix an election. They can do it, and they'll have an easier time of it because after the 2020 election, they figured out what mistakes they made, trial and error. Now they'll have an even easier time fixing it. But it's still a pain in the ass, and it's still quite costly. So they would rather not do that. But now they'll be forced to. Any of you out there expecting Trump to win in 2024? You're kidding yourselves. The very establishment that fixed the election in 2020 is for some miraculous reason going to let him win in 2024, even though they got away with fixing the election in 2020 without consequence? Come on, use your brains. The vote means the Senate cannot bar Trump from holding future federal offices. Well, it doesn't matter. He won't win any future elections anyway. Moments after the vote concluded, the former president issued a statement praising his legal team and thanking the senators and other members of Congress who stood proudly for the Constitution we all revere. Not all. The Democrats don't revere it. Most of them hate America. And for the sacred legal principles at the heart of our country. This has been yet another phase. Well, we don't all revere those legal principles, okay? People on the right do, but the people on the left, they only revere them when it's convenient for them. Meaning whenever they can use them to smear conservatives. This has been yet another phase of the greatest witch hunt in the history of our country. Oh, I'll agree with that. It's been a witch hunt. No president has ever gone through anything like it, Trump said. He's not wrong. Despite the acquittal, Joe Biden said in a statement, oh, now he's going to address it, that the substance of the charge against Trump is not in dispute. Yes, it is. What are you talking about? Because he used the word fight. He wasn't talking about physical fighting. There's many ways to fight. Even those opposed to the conviction, like Senate Minority Leader McConnell, believed Donald Trump was guilty of a disgraceful dereliction of duty. Can you tell us why you believe that? No. Yeah, it's just an ad hominem. Just an attack, just a personal attack. No argument needed, no evidence. And practically and morally responsible for provoking the violence unleashed on the Capitol. There was no violence except on behalf of the government. The cop that died, natural causes. Coronary or something like that, brain aneurysm. He wasn't attacked. He was not bludgeoned. That was a lie. The woman that was shot, she was shot by the government. Two of the other people that died committed suicide. What violence? The only violence was on behalf of the government. These people were not being violent. They were let in. The cops waved them in. Meanwhile, BLM riots for 9 months, kills like 4 dozen fucking people, assaulted hundreds more, thousands more, billions of dollars in property damage, billions more stolen, looted. Many of those properties destroyed were black-owned properties. Oh, but they're the virtuous ones. And how many BLM and Antifa were shot by cops? 0. 0.000, you motherfuckers. So that tells you all you need to know about. All you need to know about whose side the government is on. And it's not on the side of people who want to conserve this great nation of ours, which is no longer great. Because of people like Biden. They've destroyed this country. The president added that this sad chapter in our history has reminded us that democracy is fragile. It is that indeed. It's very easy to destroy. It's much easier to destroy than it is to create. And I don't think people understand this in this day and age because they can't think critically. It's very difficult to build something, but it only takes a second to tear it down. That it must always be defended, that we must be ever vigilant, that violence and extremism has no place in America. Well, apparently that's not true. It does have a place, apparently, if you have the right beliefs, if you're pursuing the right cause, the PC cause. Just like in communist China under Mao. It was okay for the Red Guard to go out and kill their fucking teachers because they had glasses which represented their wealth and education, which meant they're the bad guy. If you believe that, it's okay to use extremism and violence. Only if you're against that, you have the wrong views, and then you can't use extremism and violence. Because if you use extremism and violence, well, then you will be able to fight back against us. So it's off limits for you. Yeah, which is why I keep telling people on the right, you need to use the tactics of your enemy. Read Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. Fight fire with fire. It's the only way we're going to win against these people. Because if we continue to follow our own rule book, well, the left is going to continue to use it against us, which will totally, completely hamstring us and make us unable to fight back. Ooh, we can't lower ourselves to their level. Gotta turn the other cheek. Anyway. And that each of us has a duty and responsibility as Americans, and especially as leaders, to defend the truth and to defeat the lies. How do you defeat the lies? We'll just keep talking. Derp, derp, derp. Yeah. So essentially preaching to the choir. That's what conservatives are going to keep doing. Just preach to the choir. And of course the choir, what that means is the choir already believes what you believe. So it's just another echo chamber. Because the left, the nut jobs, the loony liberals, the communists, pinko scum that they are, they don't listen to you. They don't listen to any of your programs. They hate you. And anything that you have to say, they believe is racist, sexist, you're evil, and anything that comes out of your mouth is lies. So the only thing you're doing when you continue to try and defeat the lies with your methods doesn't reach their ears, and if it does, their ideological conditioning just filters it out, and they don't hear a word. And even if they do hear you, they can't critically analyze it because they can't critically analyze anything. They just have their ideology to draw on. They can't think for themselves. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer called Saturday's vote the largest and most bipartisan vote in any impeachment trial, but noted it wasn't enough to secure a conviction. Well, give it time. Maybe within the next 4 years, Biden and his global elite puppet string pullers will be able to transform the country enough that the next time you want to use impeachment as a tool, maybe you'll get the vote you want. Maybe you'll get the outcome you desire then. The trial was about choosing country over Donald Trump. False dichotomy, logical fallacy. And 43 Republican members chose Trump. They chose Trump, he said again. It should be a weight on their conscience today. Give it a fucking break with your sophistic bullshit. And it shall be a weight on their conscience in the future, he said in a speech on the Senate floor. What? It's amazing. He's no longer president, but you're still talking about him. Yeah, I imagine they'll continue talking about him for the next 4 years even. Because, just in case he does decide to run again. We got to poison the well. So if he does run for re-election again, in addition to all the cheating we'll do, we'll have turned even more people against him. So they'll get less votes, make it easier for us to have our candidate win. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi from California mocked the Republicans who voted to acquit, most of whom cited his status as a former president as the reason for their vote. Yeah, you can't impeach somebody who isn't in office anymore. That's like firing somebody that quit a month ago. She called them a cowardly group of Republicans. Yeah, she loves the ad hominems, doesn't she? Yeah. Who were afraid to defend their job, respect the institution in which they serve. This is just projection on her part. This is you you're talking about, honey. Typical leftist move. With control of the Senate split 50-50. You mean 57-43 because those 7 are actually rhinos and they're actually Republicans? The House managers always had an uphill battle when it came to convincing enough Republicans to cross party lines and convict a former president who didn't do anything wrong, who is still very popular with a large part of the GOP base. Yeah, God forbid that. You can only be popular with your base if you're a Democrat. Except in Biden's case. In Biden's case, they'll just fix the election regardless. In his closing argument, House Manager Joe Neguse from Colorado argued the stakes could not be higher because the cold, hard truth is that what happened on January 6th can happen again. What happened? Well, I didn't hear you coming out and lambasting people like fucking Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters for calling for violence. I didn't see you come out talking about how, what happened in Kenosha and Portland and Seattle with the Chaz Chop, talking about how that can't be allowed to happen again, but it could happen again if we don't take steps to avoid it. Oh, no. You want to downplay that stuff because that stuff is what you actually want to be used as the tool to destroy this country, right? Cow people into submission. Yeah. I fear, like many of you do, that the violence we saw on that terrible day may be just the beginning. What a bunch of crap. There was no violence. There was no violence. That's a lie. Total complete lie. This is all a fabrication. There was no riot on January 6th. That's all propaganda. I've seen all the video from the dude wearing the headdress with the spear that had the American flag on it, walking in nonchalantly, walking around the room, getting up on the podium, and the cop is like, hey, could you guys just don't damage anything, okay? They were all peaceful. The only people that were violent were the government. Lead impeachment manager Jamie Raskin from Maryland, commie, urged the senators to think of the future. Senators, why am I not surprised? Yeah, Democrat from Maryland. Yeah. Senators, this trial and the final analysis is not about Donald Trump. Yeah, right. The country and the world know who Donald Trump is. He's a great guy. He's an American. He's a fucking patriot, you dumb bitch. You don't know. This trial is about who we are. Sophistry. Meaningless words. Playing on emotion. Trump lawyer Michael Van Der Veen, meanwhile, insisted his client did nothing wrong. Well, he didn't. If you could say that Maxine Waters, who told people to attack Trump supporters, to harass them in public, if she didn't do anything wrong, then Trump didn't either. And he really didn't, by the way. Insisted his client did nothing wrong and maintained he was the victim of vengeful Democrats and a biased news media. Well, yeah. He called the impeachment proceedings a charade from the beginning to end. Well, sure it was. But again, a lot of it's about distracting the American people from Biden's first month in office so he can sign a gazillion executive orders. And you won't pay attention to them. While he often seemed angry during his presentation, you ever notice that, by the way? Every time something big is supposedly happening in government, a new bill, something that they fear might be unpopular, something they don't want you to see, something suddenly pops up. Murder hornets, murder bees, pandemic, impeachment, Russia collusion bullshit probe. Sign those executive orders, Joe. We'll distract the shit out of them with a second impeachment. And we might get lucky enough to make it so that Trump doesn't run again. And if not, we'll have still distracted him so you can pass all that unpopular shit. And nobody will know better. Nobody will know what you did. Nobody will be paying attention. Yeah. While he often seemed angry during his representation, righteous indignation is good. It's very good. The left uses it to much success. We need to as well. Van Der Veen was delighted by the acquittal. Reporters saw him fist bump fellow members of the legal team afterward and exclaim, we're going to Disney World. Isn't Disney World closed because of the fake coof pandemic? Anyway, who the fuck wants to go to Disney World anyway? It's shit. The manager's task became more difficult Saturday when Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell announced in an email to his colleagues that he would vote to acquit since Trump was already out of office. While a close call, isn't this the same idiot that said he would convict? And then he just flipped the script and changed his mind. Well, a close call, I am persuaded. Yeah. Isn't that Turtle Man in McConnell? Turtle Man looks like a giant fucking turtle. While a close call, I am persuaded that impeachments are a tool primarily for the removal of a sitting president, and therefore lack jurisdiction. No shit. McConnell, who rebuffed Democratic efforts to start the trial while Trump was still in office, had condemned Trump's conduct after the riot. After. You're not condemning it before? By the way, what conduct did he do after the riot? Do you mean the fake riot that you're calling a riot but was really a protest? Any violence that occurred, it was still mostly peaceful, right? Mostly peaceful protest. Had condemned Trump's conduct after the riot. And by the way, the only violence was, again, by the government, shooting innocent bystanders who were white and conservative, which is okay, because they're universally hated, so it's okay to kill them, right? Keep that in mind for the future, because that's the future of whitey in America. Once they become a minority, they have been so dehumanized that it's okay to shoot and kill them. Perfectly okay. If they have the wrong political views, and even if they have the right political views, well, they're still white, so it's okay to kill them. So you condemn Trump's conduct after the riot. What conduct? What questionable conduct? Please tell me what he did that was condemnable. Well, you're not going to tell me. And said he'd keep an open mind about voting to convict, something he'd ruled out entirely during Trump's first impeachment trial, because that was a clear witch hunt, which this is also. After voting to acquit, McConnell blasted Trump for his disgraceful dereliction of duty. Oh, fuck off, turtle man. And squarely laid the blame for the riot at Trump's door in what amounted to an endorsement. He's just a political animal. He's trying to be popular with people on both sides of the fence. That amounted to an endorsement of many of the arguments laid out by House impeachment managers. Fuck off. Bullshit. There's no question, none, that President Trump is practically and morally responsible for provoking the events of the day. That's not true. Not true at all. What's your argument for that? McConnell said in a speech on the Senate floor. Didn't he call for no violence? Wasn't he like consistently before the riot, the fake riot, the protest that wasn't riot at all? Be peaceful. Continue to fight for what you believe, but not with violence, and be peaceful. That's what he was saying. Of course, they want to take what he said out of context and then try to convince you sheep out there that he called for violence. McConnell had suggested in the email early in the day that Trump could face other penalties. The Constitution makes perfectly clear that the presidential criminal misconduct while in office can be prosecuted after the president has left office. Can you tell us what Trump did that was criminal? Of course, you leftists have created this world of relativity where you can pretty much interpret anything as being criminal, right? Which, in my view, alleviates the otherwise troubling January exception argument raised by the House, he wrote. The trial was the fourth of an impeached president. No president has ever been convicted. Well, there you go. There you go. So Trump was acquitted, but it was much closer than any impeachment trial in history. Any of those Republican, rhinos who voted to convict President Trump, any of them that are running for re-election, be it in 4 years or 6, do not vote for them. Okay? They need to be primaried. They need to be gotten out of there. The Republican Party needs to be brought together. But of course, as I said before, so many conservatives have embraced the radical, individualist way of viewing the world that they're not very effective at collectivizing against a common foe. And I'm not sure they ever will be. Anyway, let me know what you think of this story. Is it great? Is it wonderful that Trump got acquitted? Or was it a horrible, evil outcome? Let me know in the comments section. And please like and subscribe to my BitChute channel if you have not already at bitchute.com/The Realist Philosopher. That is bitchute.com/The Realist Philosopher. And again, if you'd really like to support my work, go to therealistphilosopher.com. That is therealistphilosopher.com and make a donation. I could really use your help.